Hey, welcome to another album review, and today I decided to go back to Flipturn because I enjoyed the EP yesterday, and I was like, okay, I'm curious about what they have. So I went back to an earlier EP, like 3 years earlier, give or take. I think this EP came out in 2020, or the EP they reviewed yesterday came out in 2020. This one came out in 2017, and it's called Heavy Colors. And essentially it's a little bit longer. It has 6 songs rather than 5, and you don't have like the intro song, I guess, like it's just pure songs. And I was actually surprised because yesterday the EP was more indie, mixed with rock sometimes, right? But it was indie. It was like sort of, it had that sort of I'm gonna call it nostalgia, because I think that's like the vibes it gives. This one though, no, this one is just a feels good summer in a weird way. Like this one is way more like rock, and it is indie rock, but it's not that indie that usually is more sad or whatever, right? It's just like very funky, very upbeat actually. In a way, actually, I was listening to this album, and one of the things that I was actually reminding me of was Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like I felt like this band was essentially Red Hot Chili Peppers without like the spice, without the flair. Obviously more toned down, not as like funky, right? But it's sort of like it gives the same vibes basically. I do feel like pretty much, again, like for example, a lot of the guitar work is there, especially when combined with the drums and the bass, that sort of give this overall flair of the bass is actually not as listenable in the album, unfortunately. It's mostly just guitar and drums that are, and vocals actually. So this is something that yesterday I actually think I got wrong, because I mentioned synth. In reality, I think it was just backing vocals. Like, there's constant backing vocals in this album, and I think that yesterday, at least from what I've heard or from what I've reheard from some of the songs there, it appears to me that it's just backing vocals that appeared like synths, and then you have sort of a little bit of guitar with certain effects, and that's sort of what was going on. I don't know if they actually have a keyboard player or not, but definitely like, that's what was going on. And at first I think it tripped me a bit because I wasn't really prepared, especially not without like back in the mix. I guess the backing vocals are like the backing vocals, like this sort of chorus is very like very mixed in. It's very almost even, to the point where it's hard to make out. In a way it's good because it's what it gives it the vibe without giving away that it's just a chorus, right? And it actually synergizes really well with the main vocals, which is very nice. It's like the main singer is a very like warm voice, it's higher pitched, and I think it's actually perfect to make the songs actually feel like they're much warmer, much more positive, rather than just sort of what a lot of indie songs tend to have, which is using that voice but more sad. Like, I feel that the way the singer here sings, especially with the way it synergizes with the guitar work, actually I was very impressed with the guitar work, especially in this album. I think it makes it, or I guess it's an EP, but still I think it makes the entire thing stand out much more than perhaps other indie stuff or whatnot. So I was actually really impressed with it all. However, I must say that I also kind of enjoyed it less. I was actually really surprised to see, especially how complex or like how different the songs are from the Something You Needed EP versus this one. I think that this one, a lot of the songs sort of mix more together. Like, I know some of the melodies, like for example the Chicago melody, or the melody from Beep, the first song in this EP. Like, I know the melodies, right? They play in my head, but it's like I couldn't distinguish them if I didn't have the songs in front of me right now. You know what I mean? Like, I think that all of the songs here kind of like mix together in a way. Like, to me, it's hard to essentially... yesterday was sort of the thing where it was like Something You Needed only has like pretty much 4 songs. I mean, let's put the intro song aside, and pretty much all of them are very distinct from each other, right? They all fit together in an ETP, but they're all distinct. All have like sort of a different vibe to them, or a different perspective to that sort of, I called it an autumn sort of type song, right? And but pretty much every single one has a different perspective. Here, I don't feel like they do. right? Here I don't feel like the songs do anything like quote unquote different from each other. I mean, look, it's great to just like vibe and put it on the background, but it's not that good when you're actually trying to be like, oh man, let me actually like try and interact with this song and enjoy this song, right? I mean, granted, not every song needs to be a fucking, Tool song where the intro bass line alone makes you like, oh shit, that's good, right? But at the same time, I just, maybe I wanted a little bit more. I don't know, I actually, like, I find it really funny because oftentimes I hear these things and then I keep hearing them the next day before I listen to like the next thing that I need to hear that day or that I feel like hearing that day. And then I realized just like how much I sort of like missed about it, and I was actually quite impressed with the EP yesterday. Like I think that it was very it was like a sweet spot of essentially bittersweetness, right? It was like you had this sort of this warmth, you had sort of this more cold approach to it, all mixed like in one song, right? I mean, at the same time, like I understand where they're like quote unquote warm, happy sort of indie rock vibes come from, because this EP definitely like does show that side of the band. But at the same time, like everything was so mixed together in that EP, in the Something You Needed EP. It was so like, it was a very good balance between both, which created a sort of like this more unique sound. I mean, sure, look, it's not super like revolutionary or whatever, not necessarily, but it was very like unique. It's very the band's, and you can really like, I think it's the type of sound that defines a band in a way, where it was like I hear it and I go, yep, that's definitely like that band, like it's definitely like that style. Whereas here, yeah, the work is competent, but I don't feel like it really stands out too much, which is a shame because, like again, I think that obviously, I mean, this EP was released 3 years earlier than the other one, right? They have released quite a few things ever since, I mean, this was like 2017, yeah, 8 years ago, basically, right? So this was 8 years ago, so obviously the band has quite grown a lot. I mean, Something You Needed EP was 5, 3-year difference is, the 3-year difference is actually quite big, all things considered, especially the state of the world that was, fucking 2016 forward, where it seemed that everything just sort of got crazier, so they had plenty of time to sort of evolve, and definitely like music wise a lot of stuff changed over time. So a 3-year difference is actually like a massive difference when you're putting out music, and you can really feel it in these 2 EPs, right? So I don't want to be like, it's a shame that this isn't as good as Something You Needed. Yeah, of course it's not as good. I mean, it came earlier, right, when they were more inexperienced, right? So it's good to see like where their sound evolved and how they sort of grew, but at the same time, like, yeah, I think this EP is just like not the most gripping to me. Like again, I think this is the type of album where it's like, if you put it, I'm not gonna like skip it or anything like that. It's nice, you can vibe to it, but it's also not the type of thing that I would like really search for, unless I'm like really like, craving it or whatever, because I'm craving like something that I'm, like, I don't know, sometimes, you're sort of sitting there and you kind of want to listen to music, but, you don't want to listen to this band and you don't want to listen to that band, and I don't feel like listening to this genre. You don't really, like, know what to listen to, so you feel like you want to listen to just something completely different that you don't usually listen to. Yeah, I think this EP would do the job. But I think that outside of that circumstance, or outside of someone putting it, sort of playing, even though I wouldn't skip it, I also necessarily wouldn't go after it. Again, not necessarily that there's anything wrong, but it just doesn't really grab me too much, especially comparatively speaking to what I heard yesterday, where I didn't even necessarily have good words to try and describe. I just feel like yesterday was a much more interesting experience, and definitely it is the type of songs that I've been replaying, as I've also been replaying a lot of Slip tokens, so I guess, right? But yeah, it's sort of, I just feel like this one maybe perhaps just not as engaging to me, which, hey, not every song can be like engaging, or not every piece of music needs to be engaging to you. Sometimes you're gonna like some things more than others. It's completely fine. I still acknowledge that this is not necessarily bad, right? Like, I don't know, I'm always afraid of like criticizing things or saying that they're not for me, because I'm afraid of people hearing that, oh, this is bad, and they shouldn't like it. It's like, you should like whatever you want to like, it's just not for me, basically, right? So in terms of my 5 meter, right now I'm feeling like a 6 out of 10. I think it's fair. I think, a 6 out of 10 is above average, honestly. So, yeah, again, like, I still enjoyed it. It's just not really that great. And then, comparatively speaking to what I heard yesterday, it's just a downgrade. Again, it came earlier, so there's the explanation. But yeah, this to me is a 6 out of 10. Or at least, my 5 meter is, you already know my 5 meter. But yes, essentially, that's it for today, and I'll see you tomorrow with a new album review.